Welcome to the Continuous Delivery section. In this section, we're going to learn how to automate the delivery of new versions of our application to our users. Now, continuous delivery, of course, is going to be using the foundation that we set when we worked with continuous integration. Thanks to all of that work that is already set, continuous delivery is going to be very straightforward. We're actually barely going to mess with the code, and in App Center we're mostly going to be connecting with things that we configure outside of App Center. Now, before talking a little bit more about what those configurations will mean, let's talk about the flow that you may already have an idea about that will trigger continuous delivery. So far, we know that we code most of our features directly on the dev branch, and that eventually we merge everything with the help of a pull request into the test branch. And we know that the pull request can trigger some continuous integration, make sure that the application builds, and eventually, as we merge everything finally into the test branch, everything is integrated correctly. It is after this point, after the merge is executed, that the continuous delivery process begins. Essentially, after this point, when the pull request is merged, we are going to deliver everything to a group of people. At least in the case of the test branch, this group of people can be testers within our organization, or even beta testers outside of the organization that may be helping us identify exactly how our application is working. And the great thing about it is that everything is going to be handled through App Center. It is going to be App Center, the one that manages these groups of people, manages how is it that these people can download the new version, and that of course prepares that new version as soon as the pull request gets merged into, in our case, the test branch. And something very similar is going to happen in the case of the master branch. We also know that from the test branch, we eventually merge into the master branch, perhaps after our testers and our quality assurance team have given the green light. Again, we already know that as the pull request gets created, the build gets executed. We have these checks already in place, and of course we have to continue protecting the master branch with those checks and maybe even with some people required to approve the merge. But again, as soon as that merge happens, everything about continuous delivery is going to be triggered. And it is going to be App Center's job to make sure that a new version of this application reaches the app stores. And in this case, I'm displaying the App Store for iOS applications, but of course this works exactly the same for the Play Store for your Android applications. After that merge happens into the master branch, App Center's job is to generate the file that will be uploaded to the app stores so a new version can be delivered to our users. Now, the configuration is actually not going to be added directly on App Center. Now, of course, eventually everything is connected in App Center, but most of the things that we're going to be doing are actually outside of App Center. But the great thing is that once you configure it, just once, you can forget about it. As soon as everything is connected in App Center, you can just focus on coding the next feature of your application, having everything integrate nicely through pull requests with the help of App Center, and eventually when the merge happens, App Center is going to do the rest. And essentially this is what DevOps is. It may take a little bit longer to configure everything nicely, but once it is configured, everything else is going to be much easier. The configuration is going to include things like making sure that your applications get correctly signed, because of course your applications have to be signed for them to be able to be published to app stores and even to run on physical devices. You as a developer will have to sign these applications, these installation packages, so that Google or Apple or their devices know that it is indeed a registered developer the one who signed or created this application. And this process is going to happen mostly outside of App Center. After you have signed these applications, you may already deliver the application to testers through App Center. But there is one more step that you have to perform. You of course eventually have to configure everything on the app stores. And by that I mean the App Store and the Google Play Store. In here you're going to have to make sure that your applications already have at least one first version correctly configured in the app stores, along with all of the information that they need, such as icons and screenshots and descriptions. All of this information has to be set directly with Apple, directly with Google. But once that is ready, App Center will be able to update that first version with new versions of your applications, the ones that come directly from the repository as soon as a merge happens, in our case in the master branch. Of course, all of this is going to be covered throughout this section. And by the end, you will have successfully automated the delivery of new versions of your app to groups directly through App Center, and of course eventually the app stores. So new versions of your application can easily be published to either the App Store, the Play Store, or both. And the best thing is that all of this is going to be eventually fully automated with App Center, so you can go back and focus on creating the next great feature of your software. Starting in the next lecture, we're going to be getting things ready on our repository and on App Center, where we're going to be creating those groups, those distribution groups, to whom we will eventually be distributing our application.